I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how to set up a virtual private network server on a Windows 7 machine. All the software comes standard on Windows 7 machines. And so I'm going to run through the steps on how it's done. So let me share my screen with you. And what we will do, the first step we have to do is we have to prepare our firewall. Most of us use wireless routers that connect to our internet connection. And in my case, I have a unit that the cable company supplied that's a cable modem, wireless access point and router, and a 5-port switch with a built-in firewall. So the first thing I need to do is configure my firewall to allow VPN traffic through the firewall. Now, most of these wireless router firewalls come default with the settings to allow the VPN protocols to go through the firewall. So the one that is used by the Windows 7 virtual private network is the PPTP pass-through. So these were all set by default. So the next thing I had to do was I have to do some port forwarding. So any traffic that comes in on a particular port at that firewall will be routed to my virtual private network server that I have designated. So I have selected the one machine on my network that's going to be the access point for virtual private networking. And I have given it a static IP address because if I didn't, if the thing gets reassigned, then the VPN will stop working. So I set up the virtual server or port forwarding. It goes by different names on different under different router software. So 1723 is the standard port for PPTP protocol. This is the IP address of my virtual private network server. Now, rather than expose a standard port number to the internet where people can probe it and poke at it stuff, I picked a random port number through which I'm going to do my VPN connections. So I use 23234 as my inbound port, and all my VPN connections will be made to that port number. Any activity that comes in on that port number will be passed through to the machine at this IP address, and it will come in on the standard port for VPN networking. The last thing I need to know from my firewalls, I need to come over to wherever they store the IP address that was assigned by the cable company. This is the address by which I connect to the outside world. This is my internet access. So this is the number that I'm going to need to know to set up my client. And I will be connecting to this IP address and that port number that I previously had showed you. So next step is to come to, go to the control panel and come to Network and Sharing Center. Then you're going to click on the Change Adapter Settings. At this point, hopefully you'll have a menu bar up here. If you do not have that menu bar, you're going to have to change another setting to make sure that it shows up, because that this is a Windows Explorer, and so you need to come to the control panel and select Folder Options, and then under the view of the folder options, you'll see right here there is a check mark for always show menus. Make sure that that check mark is there, and then click OK. And then when you come to this window, you will have that menu bar showing. And that's important because that's the only way you can get to the next step. So you go to the File and you say New, click on New Incoming Connection. Now you need to select what users are going to be allowed onto these machines. Hopefully you have at least one user account that doesn't have administrative privileges. So if you do, select that account. If you don't, create an account that doesn't have administrative privileges that you can connect to. And you do that by clicking Add Someone, and then you can just give it a name. And that will be the account by which you do your VPN connections. You click Next. Make sure you check the box you will connect to through the internet. And then click Next. And these protocols will be selected by default. They will be required by your incoming connection to in order to make contact with the outside world. And then at that point, you click Allow Access. And after a little while, it'll say that, okay, you can now connect to this computer. So so it says, in order to connect, they will need the following information. Well, that information won't be that helpful. So, but what they do need is that IP address and the port number that we set up before. The next thing we'll do is, now this I would normally set up on my laptop. So I come to Control Panel, and again, go back to the Network and Sharing Center, but this time I say set up a new connection or network. And under there, I say connect to a workplace. That will, and then use my interconnection VPN. So at this point, I'm now setting up my VPN client. And so at this point is where I will give it my IP address that I had found out is my public IP address from the internet. And then give it the, because it's not using the default port, I have to specify what port. Then you click Next. And at this point, it will want the username, and that was the username that was on that machine, and the login for that user on that machine. And you can give it a remember this password if you want, or when you go next time you'll so so anyway, that's how you set it up. Like I said, I would set this up on my I use my laptop when I set this set up the client. And that's how you do a VPN connection. hope you appreciate that, and hope it all works for you.